Well, hello everybody and welcome back down into the garden dungeon, my little winter hideaway where I'm hanging out by the aloe vera table at the moment. And I am very excited by what I see going on there, but today we're kind of really focusing on the aquaponic table and a few different things that I'm doing with that. So, without too much further ado, let's get started. Like I said, without too much further ado, this one aloe just kills me with how far it has stretched up, but up on the top seems to be growing much more dense sort of plant, so that's nice. Got this aloe here doing alright, but what I'm really thrilled about is how well these pups are coming up on the side. It's almost like the more I torture this plant, the better it's going to do for me for pup production, so that's not looking good for its well-being, but I'm going to get a lot of plants out of that, so that's alright. We got one of the little rootless suckers here. Seems to be doing okay, you know, it's not really drying out too bad or anything, and I keep needing to add water to it. This little one here is just, looks pathetic, doesn't it? Just itty-bitty thing, but again, it's not drying out. It doesn't look too terrible bad. I mean, it has dried out a little bit there. Oh, kind of just looks like a leak, doesn't it? I don't know about that one, but this one looks alright. And I've got a couple upstairs in the bathroom garden that I'll probably show you next week. We'll take a look at that. But they are doing ridiculously well under that Mars Hydro light. I just don't like to show that particular garden because that light and this camera, not a happy mix. That is fantastic though. That is, well, longer than my finger, so very impressive. Now I believe it was Rob Z who gave me the tip last time, and many thanks to you, Rob, for this. Next time just kind of take a butter knife and go straight down the edge there. Should be able to pull them right out. So hopefully I'll remember to give that a try when those get, well, a little more bigger. Oh, my English is good today. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll let this whole pot get kind of crowded out with them. We'll see just kind of how crowded it can get. Stress it that way. I'm always liking to try new things. Speaking of new things though, we're supposed to be into the aquaponic garden today, not the aloe table. Doesn't that water look terrible? I just topped up the tank via filling the garden table above it and flushing out a lot of, well, the various bits of liquid carbon. There's a lot of the brown that we see in there, and some of the bacterial cultures, and a whole bunch of just plain gook, as I like to call it. But this will clean up in no time and get sucked up on that sponge, which I need to clean up to feed the bog mint, because it hasn't had a good filth feeding in a while. But looking at the aquaponic table, things are looking pretty good, especially since I've sprayed it down and gotten rid of most of the hard water deposit. Looking at the red currants, I mean, look, the growth on this. These are very weak and feeble leaves compared to what it would produce outside in natural sunlight. So there's definitely going to be a hardening process when these go outside. And I'm betting all of these initial leaves will die off. But if we can keep the plant alive, then I'm still up 2, 4, 5, plus the one over there, 6 red currants just from giving it a try. And you know, I'm also giving I believe these are the Polar Jewel honeyberries a try. And we can see a lot of leaf development. You know, I think I'm going to change angles on this. One moment. Didn't really get that much better, but anyway, we can see these leaf buds are definitely opening up to give us leaves, but at the bottom, because, oh come on camera, focus. Okay, we'll play with the zoom. Maybe you'll work with me on the zoom. Because Haskaps and honeyberries are so early to flower, you see these smaller nodes at the bottom here. Those, I believe, will turn into those flowers. So I'm going to have to nip those off, I think, because there's no way this can possibly produce the nutrients it needs to throw roots and have flowers and trying to be producing leaves all under an LED shop light. I just don't see that happening, but Nice when the focus does work. Anyway, so far it looks like things are going well with the honeyberries as well. So on that effort, what we've got here is we've got a bowl of mixed Haskaps. These smaller ones are the honeyberries, the twigs you just saw a moment ago, and these larger ones are from the Borealis Haskap. Now that's the bush that's only about half the size of the honey bush. The honeyberries are going to get to be some like 8 foot by 8 foot, big, beautiful, broad bush. Itty bitty berries. The Haskap gets to be 4 foot by 4 foot tall, but it has significantly larger berries. So I'm going to try and plant some of these into the aquaponic table here and see if we can get some growing through a good old-fashioned, plant the fruit, see what happens. I'm not expecting much, but these have been, what do they call it, stratified or whatever. These just came out of the freezer. Obviously, they're not fresh picked off the bush right now, are they? So they have had an extreme cold period. Coming into here should be like a spring. And if they're going to sprout for me in the aquaponic garden, I think this is as good a chance as any to see it happening. So I'm going to try and use some of this space here. And I'm also going to get rid of the sage and that mint. Now I say get rid of, I really mean remove from the aquaponic table. Because I've had these scraggly plants for a while. I'm actually kind of attached to them. So I'm going to transplant them into a couple of big old planters that I've got over there. And we can see about keeping them alive on the Darwin table or over with the aloes, or I don't know, maybe taking them upstairs to the kitchen window or something. Because they're not happy here. They have been in the past, but they're not now. These things do happen. And yeah, I would kind of really like to see just kind of how many berry bushes, starts, clones, whatever, I can get out of this table over the course of one winter. Because, like I say, we're already up 6 red currants. Potentially, there's 10 cuttings for the honeyberries there. And I got a whole bag of fruit for these Haskaps. So, genetic diversity is found in planting seeds, not taking cuttings. Alright, so let's get started with the really, the fun but scary part, which is pulling the plants out of the aquaponics. It's pretty easy, as you will see. It's not exactly complicated, is it? Not a lot of roots on this particular sage. I'm starting to think the water cycle might be a little heavy for this particular plant. I mean, it's kind of a Mediterranean type plant, isn't it? And I believe right now I've got the timer set so that the pump goes half an hour on, half an hour off. So I may be adjusting that. We'll do 15 minutes on at the beginning of the hour, and then that's it for the rest. Not a fantastic bit of root mass on here though. This to me, I used to think that was actually a bad thing, all that dirt you would sort of call it, and muck I generally call it on the roots there. But I kind of think that that is the plant trying to put carbon into what it thinks of as soil. So that may not be as bad as I used to think. Anyway, we're going to put this off to the side for now until we can get that in some soil like it seems to want. And let's start pulling the mint out of here, because I've got mint showing up in some pretty interesting places. There's a little mint sprig all on its own. You can kind of see, hopefully it's coming up, this little runner root. When people talk about mint being terribly invasive, this is what they're talking about. Because it will spread through anything it can to grow anywhere it can. Here's the one that was growing in the aquaponics. The Aero Garden. You can still see it's got its little peat plug there. These things don't break down very well, as it turns out. Oh, we've got some root growing off to the side. That's actually some pretty decent looking side root. This will probably turn into a healthy plant for me, although it looks terrible at the moment. I am hopeful that we'll put that into a couple of solo cups and everything will be fantastic. Look at all this extra real estate we've cleaned up. Speaking of cleaning up, dead leaves here, dead sage there, dead mint. But it's the living mint that is the issue. And again, we can sort of see with this one, hopefully you can hear that crinkle on what should be living plant. So I'm betting the roots on this, ooh, I was going to say are not that substantial, but I was going to be wrong, wasn't I? We've got some pretty decent root growth there, and I'm betting there is a lot of it still running throughout the aquaponic bed here, because that kind of tore a little bit when I initially started my pull. So I may have volunteer mint coming up in the aquaponics, but we'll do what I do with volunteers. We'll pull them out. We'll put them in solo cups, party cups if you will, and plant it out. Again, we've got some very mucky, gooky looking roots, but I actually think, from what I'm learning about soil biology and stuff, that yeah, this may be a good thing. This may be the plant trying to communicate with soil biology for the various things that it clearly needs right now, and the aquaponics doesn't seem to be providing. Let go of that honeyberry. Okay, so into the planter for you. In this mess, I'm just gonna level out. And I'm sure a lot of people are quite concerned about how well that's going to do, but I tell you, I am, clearly not. Some of it's going to break down, some of it's not, some of it's going to end up in the fish tank, some of it's not. I am very much not worried about it. I don't have red wriggler worms in this aquaponic garden yet, but I am seriously thinking about it because it will help with the breakdown of things like that. And if I reduce my water flow, I should have a much better opportunity as far as that goes. Okay, so filthy hands in tow. We're going to take some of these berries here and we're just going to shove them rather unceremoniously into the aquaponic garden, flesh and all. So again, I can already hear gasps. And we're going to hope for the best that maybe, just maybe, something is going to sprout. Worst case scenario, I have introduced some foreign matter into an already pretty organic rich material here. So kind of no big deal. And I may have to wash out my pellets one day. I should probably do that anyway. I mean, look at these things. But building a healthy aquaponic garden is kind of all about building your media bacterial cultures, because it's not soil, right? We don't have soil bacteria working for us. We have aquaponic bacteria working for us. And they're still going to do a lot of the same things. They're still going to help convert airborne nitrogen into the nitrogen that feeds our plants. They're still going to help convert the fish waste into the various bits of potassium and I think a little bit of the phosphorus that we need. I'm still not entirely 100% on how that works. I'm just thrilled that it works. Therefore, I work with it. So yeah, here we go. We've got the sage removed from the middle of the bed. We've got the mint mostly removed from the side of the bed here. We've got a bunch of honeyberry and Haskap berries, literally frozen berries, shoved in here, and we're going to see if anything at all sprouts out of that. And we've got 10 honeyberry cuttings there, kind of looking to me like they're at least trying to get a good start on life. So while it doesn't necessarily look good for this one particular red currant plant, that's not a bad percentage as far as failure to success rate. So I'm going to rinse my hands off, turn off the camera, and then probably wrap this up. Alright. I suppose a wiser man would probably keep his hand towel closer to the aquaponic garden, but me? No, I keep it all the way across the other side of the room. Why would I bother doing something convenient and intelligent when I can make it awkward and foolish for later? That's just not my style, is it? But anyway, so today we've taken a look at a few things going on in the aquaponic garden, and there's really not a whole lot going on yet as far as outdoors. It's only just January, but last year I was thinking about it, and last year pretty much the only things that grew in the garden, aside from that rather crazy looking tomato patch, were things that could be planted out in the so-called Manitoba spring, which is basically a week before summer starts. And we still got a pretty decent harvest out of a few of those things. I am really curious to hear from you all, if you are still with me at this point in the video, as to what varieties of annual vegetables you like to get an early start on and think might work for me in my short Manitoba season. There goes the aquaponic pump, so this is definitely a wrap to the video because that's going to get loud. So thank you for sticking around with me if you are still with me. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It does kind of help me get through things in the algorithms there and get shown to more people and all that fun stuff. If you actually like the content of the video, be sure to hit the actual like button so I know to focus on this kind of stuff. Because that's what you want to see. So yeah, that helps everybody if you kind of think about it. Anywho, I'll see y'all next time. Much love until then. Play safe, stay safe, and all that good stuff. Take care, everybody.